Okay, we got why Japanese people don't want things anymore from Louis Zhao. Hopefully I said that right. Okay, what is going on?
Something peculiar is happening in Japan. It's been happening for a while. People there, especially young people, don't seem to want things anymore.
Oh
They've
shit.
stopped going for promotions at their jobs, preferring to simply go through the motion at the office. They've stopped pursuing hobbies, preferring simple routines or
They just stopped pursuing hobbies. I mean, shit. Dude, I mean, ugh, I at least like still doing hobbies. Like being a casual internet tourist, right? Playing some video games here and there.
passive entertainment. They prefer renting over buying homes, public transport over buying cars, and they prefer to keep the money they saved as cash instead of investing into assets. Half of all marriages are either sexless or nearly sexless.
What's the point? Is it just for like paper and for like tax reasons? Oh my god. A Japanese study reveals 2 in 3 married couples nearly sexless or no longer have sex amid falling birth rates. Damn, dude. This is what it looks like to like I don't want to say like impending doom, but like complete utter hopelessness.
And I probably don't need to tell you about the fertility rate, which
Oh yeah, 1 in 1 over 20, 1.26 births per what? Woman?
is at an all time low. In fact, many young adults have stopped looking for love altogether.
Damn. Is it there's no way it could possibly be the same reasons, well, multiple different bullet points that we hear over social media, right? Like most women only want like the top 10% of guys, where like the bottom 90% of guys are almost ghosts and don't even exist to like most women.
About 45% of them have not had sex for at least 12 months. And of those never married, about half are virgins. The Japanese management consultant Kenichi Omai was the first to describe this phenomenon as a low desire society. In
Damn.
his book of the same name,
Oh, fuck.
he calls it
Low desire society. I mean, if what if what is happening in Japan is kind of similar to what's happening over here in the US, it's it's like the top 10% of people make all the money, make all the rules to only benefit them and no one else. And for someone to try to better themselves in any way, shape, or form, it just seems like an absolute monumental mountain of a task that no one in the past has ever had to do. And the only reason why the people are in the positions that they are in today is because they had it easy back then and they just survive, like survivorship bias themselves there. And then they want to come out and say, oh, this generation's lazy, blah, blah, blah. They don't want to do this, to do that, whatever. It's like, no, dude. It's just, I see my surroundings and I'm just like, nah, I don't want to do this. But you're too much of a bitch to kill yourself, which is like what most people are. So they're just like their mental capacity just changes to, you just go with the wind and just not give a shit about anything. Like you're probably not gonna like go out of your way to like do bad stuff to other people, right? For the most part, you still got to participate in society, but you're just like, I'm just going about my day.
quote, Japan's unique, world unprecedented abnormality. It's as if Japan has given up on the idea of ambition People are afraid to hope and have become profoundly risk averse as a result. As Omai puts it, quote, in Japan, men and women, young and old, all suppress their desires and
Yeah.
put money into savings to minimize anxiety, even
Yeah.
if
Same.
only slightly.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I do. I fucking hate anxiety. Fuck that, dude.
To explain how Japan come to be this way, I need to tell you a story about the rise and fall of the Japanese economic empire and its aftermath, which lingers to this day. Our story begins at the end of World War II. Having lost that war, Japan was in ruin, its cities devastated, its economy shattered, and its people amongst the poorest in the world. So few
Damn.
expected that Japan was about to pull off an economic miracle the like of which the world had never seen. Over the next few decades, the country would embark on a remarkable period of unbelievable economic growth, at a rate averaging about 10% per year. And by its end, Japan had become the world's second largest economy, just behind
Damn.
the US, with many expecting it to soon overtake the US and become the most dominant economy in the world. Japan
Really?
was anything but a low desire society back then. It was vibrant and ambitious.
Well, yeah, there was shit to do. Like when you got nothing, you got to make. It's like when you get like a lot, and you can only do this with like a lot of people. When a lot of people got like nothing to do, or like they just got nothing, but they can like look over to like see what everyone else is doing. It's like, oh, that's what we're supposed to do and what we're supposed to look like. Oh, okay, let's just do that. So it's like everybody started building, everybody started getting up, like just picking up skills, getting jobs, doing stuff, building up the society with whatever pick your favorite skill or job to do is. And then it seems like there's like a point of diminishing return, it seems like, to where society looks good enough and there's nothing else really to do besides maintenance of it. And then once you get to that point, it's just like, oh, okay.
People dreamt big and worked hard. They aimed for the moon, and some got there. The streets were packed with brand new cars, stores always crowded with people. The appetite for new experiences seemed endless. Everyone wanted to get ahead, buy homes, start families, and enjoy the good life. It seemed like the good time would never end, but all good things come to an end, and the end for Japan's golden years was near. The decades of rapid growth had become unsustainable,
Uh-oh.
resulting in an asset bubble. For example, despite being 25 times smaller than the US in terms
Yeah,
of landmass,
that's tiny.
Japan's total land value was worth more than that of
Really?
the entire US.
Well, what? Why was that? Was it because like everyone was like so insanely productive, like in Japan? Because like I, I would imagine, and I don't know for sure, like, but like on this whole thing, like, are people just like living on top of each other, or are people like living like out? You know what I mean by like outwards, like with their own house or whatever, versus like upwards or like on top of each other in a city or something like that. Because like it just feels different living in a city versus like living out in like the suburbs or whatever, where like you just have a house or something and you actually have like a little bit of space, a little bit of privacy. You know, if you want to go to like your local Walmart or McDonald's, whatever, you got to drive like maybe 5-10 minutes instead of just like walking there.
Times 4. Tokyo's real estate value, in particular, had become so astronomically high that the
Damn.
Tokyo Imperial Palace, an area of just 3.4 square kilometers, were said to be worth more than all the real estate in California combined.
What?
The signs of an economic bubble were there,
That's
and,
crazy.
at least in hindsight, obvious. For example, people were buying things just to buy them, regardless of how random or useless they might
I mean, well, shit, we do that over here in America. Okay. Oh, shit. Well, are we about to hit a bubble over here too? Shit.
seem. Like golf club memberships that cost as much as $3 million. And
Wait, what?
Golf club memberships that
Golf club memberships. After all, the market's peak in early 1990, the price of an average Japanese golf club membership was reaching about $250,000, with the most prestigious ones costing upwards of $3 million. Average? Bro, what? Bro, it'd take me like 5-6 years to make that shit, dude. For an average golf club membership. What the fuck?
cost as much as $3 million. At one point, Japanese corporations seemed to have literally run out of things to buy in Japan and started buying things in foreign markets too. They bought the Rockefeller Center in New York for $1.4 billion, Columbia Pictures for $3.4 billion, and Universal Pictures for $6.6 billion. There were concerns at the time that Japan was buying up too many foreign assets. Some worried that Japan might one day buy up the entire US or the whole world.
The great yen illusion, how Japan turned Earth to gold and bought the world. Wow.
Perhaps Japanese investors have become accustomed to seeing prices going up that they stop worrying about how much they cost a day, expecting to always be able.
I would imagine one reason they stopped thinking about the cost of things is because, and this happened in World of Warcraft, when the damage numbers you do get so big, and also Diablo, when the damage numbers that you deal get so big, you can't even fathom them. You don't know like the actual value of the number when the number is just so catastrophically enormous. It just doesn't phase you in the same way that like the difference between $100 is from $1,000, which is the difference. You know, then you go $10,000 to $100,000. All right, you can feel the difference amongst all of those. But once you start reaching like 100 million, 500 million, 1 billion, 3, 5, 10 billion with a B, you can't feel it. You just don't, it doesn't feel like a billion.
To sell it for more in the future. That was until that future came crashing down. In 1989, the Bank of Japan decided to raise interest rates sharply, hoping it would keep the rampant asset speculation and inflation under control.
So you guys jacked up the interests to everything?
It worked. Or rather, it worked too well.
Uh-oh.
The asset bubble burst, causing a downward economic spiral. The crash started with the stock market in 1990, and the real estate market soon followed in 1991. Asset prices, which people assumed would keep rising, began to fall and kept falling. The stock market would go on to lose 80% of its value in the following decade, and the real estate market 70%. Businesses and banks who had overextended themselves to acquire these assets were left holding nothing but massive amounts of debt, and bankruptcies and layoffs soon followed. People who were rich on paper watched as their wealth turned to ashes before their eyes.
That just means they were too lazy and they wanted the number to go up. They should have just sold right there. You got to sell on the way up, because on that way down, it's going to be bad.
What followed wasn't just a quick recession, but a long, drawn-out economic stagnation that would come to be known as Japan's lost decades. It's called the lost decades because nothing really happened economically during those decades. The GDP more or less stopped growing, with stagnating wages and deflating prices. The effects of this economic malaise remained to this day. Tokyo's real estate market never recovered to the height of its heyday, and the Japanese stock market only went back to its pre-crash value last year.
Dang.
To say that people learned their lessons is an understatement. Perhaps they learned it too well. People didn't just grow cautious, they became pessimistic.
Yeah.
Not only are they preparing for the worst, they expect the worst too.
Damn, and that's saying something. to have your entire life be dictated by like the thought of just impending doom and to look forward to nothing. I mean, you can look forward to like little tiny things for like enjoyment and stuff like that. But any sort of fulfillment type of things, it just seems like bleak.
Ambition always ends in frustration seemed to have been the lesson many internalized. So instead of chasing big goals, they now gravitate towards stability, steady income, simple routines, and cash on hand. Those who grew
You know what's kind of funny when he says that? Probably like the top 5%, top 1% of people that have all the wealth probably wish that everybody was like a robot. But then when society actually adopts like robot like mentality, it's like, oh, this is what it's like. Oh, this isn't good. We can't have this.
up during this era of quiet resignation, who are the young people
Yeah,
working
yeah, quiet quitting, where everybody just does the minimum amount to just keep their job, and that's it. And no, you're not really looking to like advance or anything, go up. You're just like, I got my job. Okay, later.
and living in Japan now will come to comprise the bulk of the low desire society. These people never experienced the bullet train pace of rising living standards their parents did. Instead, they've grown accustomed to stagnation, where the absence of progress is the norm. They know about the massive layoffs and bankruptcies from giant corporations that once looked too big to fail, and understood job security to be illusory. Wages stay the same anyway, so why
Yeah.
work that hard? Prices remain low anyway, so why buy assets?
I mean, is there not like your basic like inflation?
Fortunately, low prices also mean that things are cheap. Rent is
Yeah.
low enough, and
Oh yeah, that's like the story of capitalism, period. If you can make it cheap and maintain a big ass profit margin, do that. No one gives a shit.
the Japanese public transport works. Food is affordable, well, except rice. That's a long story for a different day.
What, really? Emergency reserves, high prices, rationing. How did Japan's rice crisis get this far? It's rice. What? Rice is essential to Japanese culture, traditions, and politics. People take pride in the oval-shaped, sticky uh, Japonica grain, which is still a staple, even though total consumption has fallen over the decades. Oh, wait. So the demand for it is going down? But since last summer, prices have soared. Supplies have fallen short of demand. So wait, total consumption has fallen over the decades. So the trend of eating rice has gone down, but the prices have went up a little bit, but supplies have also went down too. The government has long paid farmers to cut back on rice acreage and change to other crops to keep rice. Huh.
But for the most part, the cost of living is conveniently affordable in the never ending array of 100 yen shops and convenience stores.
I take it that's like a dollar store and like 7-Elevens. Huh. I mean, shit, it's like over here in America, it's like seemingly getting more and more inconvenient to live. I mean, yeah, we got like dollar stores and convenience stores and stuff like that.
This allows people to get by with even a modest income. So before long, people start thinking, let's just keep our heads down and we'll survive. Don't try anything bold. Live below our means and
Yeah.
save what we can.
Yeah. What's wrong with being frugal? There's nothing wrong with being frugal.
Walk carefully through life so that we may arrive safely at death. Now, I'm noticing that this might start to sound a bit
Damn, that does sound depressing, dude. Oh my God.
depressing. It would seem that there's something wrong with a low desire society, that it's a problem that needs to be fixed. But is it a problem, really?
Hmm.
And if it is a
That is a good question to ask. Because, I mean, I don't know how, like, the tippity top of, like Japan's government or anything. Like, I don't know how it works. But, like, over here in America, you have like a president, and then you have like the president's cabinet, and then you got like your three branches of government and all that shit. And while we have gone away from your traditional king and queen, it's still very family oriented in your chances of, oh, if you were a president, chances are your son's going to be a president. It's not like the king and the prince, and it's not like that, but it's like that, but light, like diet version of that. You still gotta keep it in the bloodline, type of shit.
problem, whose problem is it? Now, first of all, from the perspective of the economy, low desire society is indeed a problem. In fact, the book Omaya wrote about low desire society is largely a book about the Japanese economy. Low desire society is an economic problem because desire lies at the root of any economic systems. Everything that happens in an economy, from the money invested to the employees hired to the products built in factories and sold in stores, everything happens for the purpose of fulfilling people's desires. So if people stop having desires, the entire economic machinery will grind to a halt. After
Damn.
all, why have an economy at all if no one wants anything anymore? As such, the
I mean, people still kind of want stuff. It's just the stuff that they want is so like tiny, minuscule, and like what do people want to do? I mean, they want to have like some sort of like smartphone or like tablet or computer or something, and then what? They just want to like play a game, watch a movie, watch a show, and maybe do it with a friend or two or something like that, or maybe a significant other, and that's about it. You know, I don't want to go out and try to do some crazy ass like athletic shit. I'll just go to the gym if I want to do that. I don't want to buy a ski-doo. I don't want to buy a boat. I don't want to go skiing. I could potentially injure myself, and that's big hospital bills. All right. Why would I do that? Why would I take a chance? Oh, because it's you only got one life to live and blah blah blah. But like, yeah. But if I go out and injure myself, I can't work, which means I don't have income, and then I can't take care of myself at my already low standard of living. And then I injure myself, and I have to go even lower.
be a low desire society is to have an underperforming economy. And the data reflects this. Japan's real GDP per capita has been growing at an average rate of 0.7% per year since the crash of the 1990s, a fraction of what it was before the crash,
Yeah.
and one of the lowest amongst all G7 nations. As such, low desire society has been a thorny problem for Japanese politicians and
Not just Japan, but that's like the trend throughout the entire world right now. Because all of the 1% of people on top are just gaining exponentially more wealth and power, that the 99% of people just they don't have anything. There's nothing to look forward to. Now, it's probably not the same intensity as Japan, but that does seem to be the trend.
policymakers who were elected to manage the economy and re-elected based on how well they did. They've been struggling to fix this for decades, and I don't blame them. They have on their hands an economy notorious for being uniquely difficult to manage. The Nobel Prize winning economist Simon Kuznets once said that there are four types of countries: developed, underdeveloped, Japan, and Argentina.
What the fuck was that?
In other words, Japan's economy is so strange that Kuznets thinks it should be its own category. One of the reasons for this is, again, that people don't want things. And as a result, economic interventions that work everywhere else just don't seem to work in Japan. You see, most ways to boost GDP involve injecting money into an economy in one way or another to stimulate its activities. That works because when you give money to people, they spend it or invest it, as one does with
Yeah.
one's money. That in turn boosts economic activities and some inflation. But when you give money to Japanese people, they don't buy anything because they don't want anything. They don't invest it either because they are risk averse. So they
Mm.
mostly end up saving it as cash. In other words, when you inject money into the Japanese economy, it just disappears, like the darkness at dawn.
Like the darkness at dawn.
Okay, so low desire society.
What? They just hide it under their bed? Oh my god, that's crazy. Literally everybody just hides the money under their bed mattress.
Is a problem for the economy and a pain in the ass for the politicians. But let's take a break from the abstraction of economy and politics for a moment. Let's get real for a bit.
I mean, you you try to give a bunch of money, I would imagine, to like a Japanese person, and since they don't really see or have or want the ability to make money move and like cycle, the only thing that they can think about doing with it is just to like keep it, which is, if you think about it, kind of like greedy, right? Because you would think of like a Scrooge McDuck type diving into like a pool of gold coins, right? That's like conceptually that's what's happening. But if you give a bunch of money to, I would imagine, like a Japanese, like it's like somebody that's already rich, all right, or like somebody like high in power or has like a big old a couple businesses or whatever, when you give them money, right, they want to cycle that shit. They want to make money, right? They want to invest it. They want to do stuff with it. Give it away. It comes back. They'll make a little profit here and there. Maybe get some tax breaks. But you see the two different types of like concepts going on. One person is just like, no. And the other person's just like, yes. Like they want to cycle it versus like, I'm just keeping it because I don't know how to do anything else with it. So I'm just going to keep it. I know what to do with it. So I'm just going to like, that's kind of weird.
And talk about people. By people, I mean those real individuals who live and work in Japan today. Modern economic and political systems are, at least on paper, meant to serve the people, after all. So how does this low desire phenomenon impact the people? Is it a problem for them? That is, from their personal perspectives, is it really a problem to have low desires? Well, there the question becomes more nuanced, because it's not obvious why it's a problem for someone to have low desire. Do people have to have a lot of desires? Is it bad if someone happens to not want any?
Is it bad if someone doesn't? I don't think so. But then you have to examine what your definition of good and bad is. Is it bad to have desires, or is it good to have desires? Provided, you're not hurting anybody or whatever. I think it's the same case of trying to describe colors to a blind person or trying to describe sound to someone that was like born deaf. They just don't know. And because that person has it's like something is happening behind you, but like to your eyes, like everything's fine. I don't think it is. It's not good or bad, really. I mean, you'd have to like examine it, I would imagine, from the perspective of like, you have like different levels. Like there's the individual, the neighborhood, your community, your town, your state, your country, and then even more so, like your continent, and then like the earth. From like all the different perspectives.
Look, if I truly don't want anything, and I'm just sitting here, chilling upon this chair, in a state of perfect comfort and contentment within my own skin, I can't see how anyone can convince me that I have a problem. Quite the contrary, what I have looks like the complete absence of problems. In
Yeah.
fact, it seems that I would only start to have problems when I begin to want things I don't have, where the unfulfilled desires begin to induce suffering. So, am I saying that having low desire is not a problem, rather, it is having desire that is the problem? Well, I'm not sure I'm the one saying that, but Buddha might have said something like that a few thousand years ago.
The end of desire is the end of sorrow. Is everybody Buddha?
My friends, we have stumbled upon an age old paradox in many schools of spiritual and philosophical discourse concerning the question of how to live a fulfilling life. Because there seems to be two contradictory ways to do it.
I think what's happening is people's definition of fulfillment is changing. It just is. Like since people have like no desires to do anything, people are fulfilled off of less compared to the actually, like the top 1% of people who will not give up their power to like do anything. You know, you know what I mean? Because the people that like run the world, like they, like as much as they're chilling as much as we're chilling.
You can either get what you want, or you can want what you have. To put it another way, you can either fulfill your desires, or you can lower your desires. I think many ancient teachings.
I mean, and also people, and this is an everybody thing, people always will take the path of least resistance when given like options. If there's like a hard path and an easy path, people are always going to take the easy path.
Having low desire is not only not a bad thing, but often viewed as a virtue. There is the famous story of Socrates, for instance. He went window shopping in the Athenian marketplace one day and looked at all the beautiful items on display that people could buy and said, "Wow, isn't it great? Look at all this shit that I don't want." Or the more academic translation, "How many things I can do without." Now, I don't think that ancient wisdom says that having.
Yeah, look at all of these things I can do without. Yeah, but the only reason you can say that is because there's an abundance of it. If you didn't have an abundance of it, you couldn't say that.
Desires is always bad, but it does point out this tension between getting what we want and wanting what we already have as seemingly contradictory strategies in living a good life. One of my favorite stories that illustrates this tension is the one between Alexander the Great and Diogenes the Cynic. Alexander the Great is, of course, one of the champions of having a lot of desires and getting them fulfilled. He's won wars and conquered kingdoms and gone down in history as one of its most famous high achievers. Diogenes, on the other hand, was a minimalist philosopher who lived in absolute austerity. He was basically homeless and slept in a barrel.
Damn.
It was said that he once had a cup that he used to drink water. Then he saw a child drinking water with his hand, so he realized that even the cup was unnecessary.
Damn.
Got rid of the cup. So the meeting between these two characters was bound to be interesting. When Alexander went to see Diogenes, Diogenes was lying on the ground, bathing in the sun. Alexander stood in front of him and said, "Bro, I am Alexander, king of Macedon. Wise Diogenes, name your desire. If it's within my power, I'd be happy to grant it to you." Diogenes looked up and replied, "Dude, that's great. In that case, could you stand a bit to the side because you're blocking my sun?" Now the question is, who is better? Is it better to be Alexander, who had big goals and through the disciplined application of his efforts and intelligence achieved them? Or is it better to be Diogenes, who simply skipped all that and was happy and content exactly as he was?
This is crazy because I never heard about this. Alexander the Great and Diogenes. This is like a seeming warping of the minds. Somebody that is you got like two people and they all both start at baseline And you got like Alexander the Great that like expects more, expects more, expects more. Then Diogenes is just like, I could do without that. Don't need that. Don't need that. Don't need that. And I think what we're seeing is the top 1% of people that just run the world for everything are adopting this like Alexander the Great type of mindset where they're like wanting more and more and more. But like the 99% of people are just like Diogenes. They're just like slowly but surely lowering their expectations throughout life. I mean, that's why we see, everybody having low ass birth rates, right?
Now, to be fair, Alexander and Diogenes do seem to represent the two extremes of a spectrum. One is a massive overachiever, and the other is a complete non-achiever. So maybe the answer to our question lies somewhere in the middle, a healthy medium where one does have some desires and work hard, but also have some semblance of work-life balance. Now, that answer sounds sort of right, but
Yeah, it sounds sort of right, but like in practice, I don't think there's like a good example.
it's not my favorite answer. For one, it doesn't fully answer the question. If there's a healthy medium, where is that medium exactly? In other words, how much desire is the optimal amount of desire to have?
Yeah.
The answer is
How much is it and why is it that? And not like +1 or -1 of that.
not very specific in this regard, so it's a little lazy, I think. And secondly, it implies that amount is the key to our question. But is amount really the center of the bullseye here? Now, there's another answer that I prefer, and that answer lies in the ending of our story between Alexander and Diogenes. Apparently, the conversation with Diogenes blew Alexander's mind. So, as he was leaving, he was in a pensive mood. While his men were making fun of Diogenes and telling Alexander that he shouldn't take Diogenes seriously, Alexander said, "If I weren't Alexander, I would like to be Diogenes." Some people interpret this as Alexander being envious of Diogenes, but I think it's deeper than that. If you look at what Alexander actually said, he didn't say, "Bruh, I wish I could be Diogenes." He said, "If I weren't Alexander, I'd like to be Diogenes." In other words, it implies a lack of choice to some degree, in that Alexander couldn't be Diogenes even if he wanted to, because he was, in fact, Alexander. It points to an interesting fact of life, that in the end, we're all condemned to be ourselves. We can resist that fact all we want. We might not like ourselves. We can refuse to accept ourselves. We can disown or hate ourselves. We can even put on masks and pretend to be someone else. But deep down, we are who we are. We can't run away from ourselves no matter how hard we try. Now, I'm not saying that people can't change, but I am saying that, for better or worse, each of us have our own uniqueness, our capacity to change included. For example, Alexander couldn't be Diogenes because he was Alexander. He was someone who naturally had a lot of desires and was drawn to take actions towards them. However, he could, at any moment, choose to suppress his ambition, give up the throne, and sleep in the barrel next to Diogenes. I don't know if that would have made him happier, but he did have the freedom to choose that life for himself. Now, we all know that in reality, Alexander chose to pursue his desires instead, and the rest was history. That was the decision Alexander made, with him being who he was. And each person will need to make that decision for themselves based on who they are and what they authentically desire. So the key to our question isn't amount. There isn't an optimal amount of desire a person should have. Rather, it is authenticity, namely, what is your authentic desire given who you truly are, and what will you decide to do about it? Now, that's easy to say, but very difficult to do. In fact, it's three separate, very difficult things.
Okay, who's gonna go into it? Yeah.
The awareness to know ourselves, the wisdom to decide what to do about it, and the courage to take action.
Yeah. The awareness to know ourselves. Most people don't even know themselves. Most people have like desires that they never engage in and always end up like wanting. That's why you have things like regret, right? I wish I should have worked out more. I wish I would have talked to that girl. I wish I should have like ate better, took better care of my teeth or something. There's a lot of things. Like I should have said something different in that one instance. Most people don't even know themselves. The wisdom to decide. But to do that, you have to know number one. So to get to number two, you have to know number one. Most people don't know number one, so they can't even do number two. The courage to take action. Yeah, most people can't even take action. Like, they just don't.
On that decision. To illustrate how easily one can fail at all three of these things, here's an example from my life. After graduating college, I worked for 2 years as a corporate consultant.
Oh, damn.
I was pretty miserable through most of it, probably because I hated the job, but for a long time I thought I loved that job because everyone around me loved that job, and they loved me having that job. My Chinese parents became happy for the first time in their lives, and I was constantly receiving LinkedIn messages from university students asking me to show them how they could get that job too. And my colleagues, oh my goodness, they were so enthusiastic and passionate about getting into good projects and networking and going for promotions and everything else that came with a consulting career. So I was taken in by all that. I thought I was lucky to get that job and should work hard and progress in that career. In other words, my desire for a consulting career was not my authentic desire. It was not my desire, really. Rather, it was conditioned into me by my social environment. And the closer I got towards this fake desire, the further away I drifted from my authentic desires. Stephen Pressfield calls this the shadow career, where you work in a career that you don't care about to avoid working on what you do care about. Now,
oh shit, I think I might be doing that. The shadow career. I mean, at least in America, most people don't want to be doing the jobs they got right now. Most people are probably doing a shadow career. They're just doing it to maintain their middle class lifestyle, more or less, to maintain, like, they like the benefits of society, but they hate what they have to do to, participate in it to get money.
it took me a long time and a great deal of needless misery to see that. It took me even longer to come to the decision to quit my job, and longer still to work up the courage to actually do it. All this is to say that given how malleable we are to our social programming, we're quite capable of being very confused about what we genuinely want, let alone knowing what to do about it and actually doing something about it. Now, what this means about the low desire society phenomenon is that whether it is a problem for an individual comes down to whether their low desire is authentic. For example, there are people who have low desire because that's...
But, like, why would it matter if someone was authentically low desire or inauthentically low desire? So I would imagine if you're low desire and authentic about it, you're like just like chilling and fulfilled and content. Whereas if you are low desire but you are inauthentic about it, you live in what? Regret and like sadness and depression and hate.
Who they genuinely are. They're like Diogenes, who have seen through the social programming that tries to keep them tied down to the culture of endless consumerism and decided not to be a part of it. They refuse to keep up with the Joneses and are genuinely content in the absence of incessant wants and needs. To these people, having low desire is not a problem. In fact, we have much to learn from them. All power to them, as far as I'm concerned, and politicians should stop bothering these people with their economic interventions, because asking these people to have more desire in order to boost the economy would be futile and annoying. But there's another category of low desire individuals.
Leave me alone, stupid ass government.
These people do have desires, but they're not working towards them, not out of a proactive, conscious choice, but because of some...
Because if you can be low desire and be authentic and inauthentic about it, you can be high desire and be authentic or inauthentic about it as well.
Variation of passivity, like fear of failure, low self-esteem, addiction to comfort, lack of support, etc. Whatever the reason may be, their refusal to pursue their dreams is eating them up from the inside. And the world, which could otherwise benefit from their gifts, is made worse by their resistance to it. To these people, having low desire is indeed a problem. Insofar as politicians might want to do something productive, these are the people they should try to help. But politics aside, this is first and foremost a personal problem, because ultimately, only we can be the one to put our own feet in front of one another towards our own unique journeys. People may help us along the way, but they can never do it for us, especially not the government.
Well,
So I
yeah.
hope that those who are shunning their dreams find the courage to take their first step and keep walking. And I hope we too find the inspiration in their story to do the same in our own lives. I heard that there are only 2 mistakes along this journey: not starting and not finishing. Thank you.
Hmm. Dang. Stab. Go back.
Something peculiar.
Well, I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, this shit is happening in Japan. Bro, this shit's happening over here in America too. 100%. Maybe to not like the same degree, but it is for sure happening. It's a very similar vibe. Yeah. But yeah, this is a very cool little video. Did not know what to expect, and now I'm a fan. But yeah, good stuff, man. Keep it up. I want to see more. But that's pretty much it for me. I'll catch you guys on the next one. All right, later.